Then we have supplier configuration. So for supplier, we have few setups. I haven't listed down non-mandatory setups, just a few things which are important. Supplier numbering, you can have, there's a task for supplier numbering. You cannot have alphanumeric numbers for suppliers. You can have only alphanumeric characters if you're uploading the suppliers through a spreadsheet. If you're manually creating the suppliers from the instance, only numeric characters you can have. But if you're uploading through FBDI spreadsheet, that allows you to enter alphanumeric characters for suppliers. So if you're manually creating, automatically the number is generated, and this screen, basically it is a simple screen. I'll not be opening it in the instance. You just give the next supplier number. Automatically after this, supplier number keeps on getting generated. And then you have configure supplier registration and profile change request. So basically you can register a supplier in the system. It goes through a approval process. Once like there can be a separate team who is managing the suppliers, master data management team, or some kind of supplier registration team that is registering the suppliers. Once it goes for a approval process, the suppliers can be created in the system. And the registration request can come from multiple sources. Suppliers themselves can submit a registration request, or at the time, let's say a user is creating a requisition. From the requisition, they come to know that there is no existing supplier in our system that who can provide me these goods. So at that time, when they're creating a requisition, they can send a supplier registration request, and it will go for approval for specific team, and they can register the supplier in the system. What do I mean by profile change request? Profile change request is something, let's say if some information for that supplier is changed, it will go for an approval process. Like if someone changes the information, it should go for approval. So that things you can set up for two different types of suppliers we have, spend authorized and prospective suppliers. So for both of them we can set it up. Theory, this is for your reference, which you can read it. I'll directly go to the screen. And I'll go to supplier profile change requests. So this is the screen which exactly tells you, like first one is for your supplier registration and next one is for your supplier profile change request. So supplier registration is basically like if all these fields will be available at the time of registering the suppliers, enabled or required. Enabled means it will just be enabled. Required means it is mandatory for suppliers or whichever person who is registering to enter those fields. And then supplier profile change requests, if any of these fields gets changed, whether the approval is required or not. So you can say no, for spend authorized and for prospective suppliers, you don't want to send it for approval for prospective, but spend authorized, yes. If you change the payment methods, if you change site details, if you change organization details, in organization details, all your bank accounts, everything, any of those bank accounts or anything is changed, it will go for an approval process. So because approval is required, provided you have set up the approval rules also in the background. So these things you can set up. Then the only thing in the payment terms screen that I want to show is the reference set. We'll not be discussing how to define a payment terms. Let me just search for payment terms. This small search box, you can search the setups in the screen also, and you can just go to that screen. Any questions, anyone so far? I'm just opening in existing payment term. You define all your payment terms, and in the bottom section, you see the set assignment. This is your reference set. So in your business unit reference set section, whatever reference set that you have attached, the same reference set, if you do not attach it in this screen, these payment terms won't be available for that business unit. So you have to attach the set. You can attach multiple set assignments, so this payment term is available for multiple business units also. Common means it is available to all. Once you attach the common one, common means it is available to all the business units. You don't need to attach it to single business unit separately. Common is available to all, but if you want to attach it to separate business units also, then you give separate reference set to each business unit and multiple reference set you assign here. Then these are the profile options which you can go through later on. I've given the description. The only important one here is for defaulting your business unit. None of these are mandatory. You can optionally set it up. So if you want to default your procurement business unit for specific procurement agents, you can set up this particular profile option, PO default procurement business unit. So these are for your reference that you can visit later on. Then we'll go to a mandatory setup, common options for payables and procurement. So this setup is there for both your payables and procurement. It's a common setup that you have. So I'll quickly open this. So all this information you give your default distribution accounts. This is majorly for your payables screen. Like we had financial options in your payables. Similar to that, we have this common options for payables and procurement. We give all the payables default accounts like your liability account that comes in your invoice headers, prepayment account, conversion rate variance gain and loss, realized gain variance loss and all stuff. So all these things we give in this section. We give the automatic offsets like primary balancing and all segment except natural account. Automatic offset is basically for like if your balancing segment at your invoice header does not equals to your invoice distributions, probably because you have matched that invoice with the purchase orders and your balancing segment is different. So in those cases, if you select primary balancing segment, it will offset the primary balancing segment. Because if your invoice liability account and your expense accounts does not have the same balancing segment, then your debit and credit are not equal. It is not a balanced entry. So in those cases, those balancing segment will be automatically offset and changed, and all these options are there. I've given few slides in the PPT which you can refer for this. Then we have currency conversions, default conversion rates, default realized gain and loss account. Expense accruals, you can specify when expense accruals can happen at the period end or at receipt end, when your accrual entries will be generated. All these are tax information that can be generated. So I've given few slides which you can view. Default distributions we can specify at both the places, in your common options for payables and procurement and at your supplier sites. Usually in the invoices it gets defaulted from your supplier sites, but if it is not given at supplier site, it comes from your common options. So that's how your defaulting works. These are just for your defaulting purpose, currency conversion, automatic offsets. So I've given some slides which you can read through later on. Since the interest of time, we cannot cover everything. Then we have the purchasing tasks. So we have some information. These were all common options for your common setups for your procurement that you need to do. Now we have purchasing related setups that you need to do, like your requisition business function and procurement business function, receiving parameters, where you enforce all your matching controls, you give the thresholds for item receiving and all. and then you have procurement agent. So we'll quickly visit those screens. Let's go to general. So I click on procurement business function first, and I'll select the business unit. So this is similar to your purchasing options that you have, procurement business function. And this is a place where you define all your default information, default inventory organization, default currency, conversion rate, payment terms, shipping methods. All these are uh, you can understand by yourself. You have buyer that you can default down. This is nothing but your procurement agent. First, it has to be a procurement agent, the buyer or the employee that will come in the screen, a default buyer for this. Then we have supplier registration. These URLs automatically gets generated. I'll just copy and paste one of these in the chat box. You can view these later on. So it did not come the full URL. If you even come to the screen and if you click on this URL, these are your supplier registration links. These links you can copy paste, and for each business unit these are generated separately. So you can copy paste these links and send it to your suppliers so they can register themselves by entering all their information themselves, and it will go through approval process, and then the suppliers can be registered. So for both prospective suppliers, there will be a separate link. For spend authorized supplier, it will be a separate link. And they don't need to log into the system in order to access these URLs. So these URLs are mainly for your suppliers. So you can just copy paste these links and send it to your suppliers so they will enter their details by themselves. For registration purpose, definitely it will go for approval. Once approved, they will be created as suppliers in the system. Then for purchasing, we have certain controls like once you are uploading the purchase orders, what will be the maximum file size, maximum lines in a PDF. Then we have receipt close tolerance percentage, receipt close point, at what time the receipts will be closed. So all this information, invoice close tolerance percentage, you can specify the percentages and match approval level, whether it is 2-way, 3-way or 4-way. This is also again defaulting down. At purchase order level, you can change this receipt close point whenever you want to close the receipt. We have 3 steps: received, accepted and delivered. So you receive the items, at that point only you want to close it, or you want to deliver it as well into different locations. So your receiving location is different, and where exactly you are storing the items is a separate location. And then accepted items, you even want to perform the inspections for those items. At what point your receipts will be getting closed. So all those tolerance percentages you can specify, whether you want to group the requisitions and all those things according to different attributes, because some requisitions, if you have selected as auto create purchase orders, automatically POs will be created, and how the requisitions will be grouped if you want to group them together. So all this information is present. I'll show you a very good feature that is available. That is this particular help feature. If you do not understand any field in this particular section, you can just enable this help and you can click on this help section. So all the information will be available. What is receipt close tolerance percentage? If you want to know this particular information, and this is very helpful, you click on more option, it will exactly show you what is receipt close tolerance percent. This setting is used for combination with the close point to close the schedule for receiving. If you want to close this particular thing for receiving, it is allowed for different expressed as percentage between your quantity stated in your order scheduled and the actual quantity received. So it is whatever quantity that you have ordered, that quantity you should have received. So if you receive more quantities than your ordered quantities, this is the tolerance for that. So this particular help section basically shows you all the information related to all the fields. Most of the information you'll find in this help section. And then in the bottom you have some consigned terms and sourcing information which we are not visiting. We have this defined terms and conditions. This terms and conditions you can specify and these terms and conditions will be available in your purchase orders. When you print those purchase orders, it will be sent to your supplier, so these terms and conditions will automatically default down to your POs. And the second tab in the document types, quickly go to this screen. So this particular document type, we have all those templates that you can attach, like if you're printing the purchase order, on which template they will be printing. So you can create your own BI publisher templates and attach or select those templates in the screen. There is a change order. There's something called as change order. In Fusion, what happens is, and you can even track the history of purchase orders, what changes have been done to purchase orders. So there is a change order template that you can define. If that specific information is changed in the PO, automatically a new revised change order is created. A revised purchase order is called as changed order in Fusion. It will be created with a new number. So it will be called as changed order. And you can actually go to the purchase order, and if you go to the history of that purchase order, it will exactly show you what information got changed from your PO.